Ooh, we looking at some cards. Get out of my dreams and get into my car. First card of the day is Thought Vessel. That doesn't rhyme at all. One of these days, we're gonna get a bar out of that. But Thought Vessel is a bar in and of itself. Look at this secret lair drop. Look at astronaut person here. That's kind of neat. This is can we get, yeah, that's what the card's supposed to look like. This is 2 mana for an artifact that taps for a colorless and you have no maximum hand size. This will still cost you about $1 because it's in a bunch of commander decks. So many commander decks for good reason. You know, it pulls double duty with your Reliquary Tower and your other effects like this. If you're in a deck that draws a bunch of cards, and sometimes even if you're in a deck that doesn't, people will just play Thought Vessel. It just is that good. As far as 2 mana rocks go, this is maybe in like the top 5. You know what I mean? Like, it's not Arcane Signet, and it might not even be like Mind Stone, but I think you could actually get in a real argument. Like, you could lose friends over that one. Like, which is better, Thought Vessel or Mind Stone? I like Mind Stone more. Thought Vessel, on the other hand, it kind of depends on what deck you're playing. But either way, this is very powerful 2 mana rock. I will give this a 6.1. I think it is playable in 90% of commander decks. Like, seriously, very, very good card. But oh boy, it's Erratic Portal. Have you guys seen this card? This was actually in Mystery Booster 2 and got the cool art with the future sight sort of border. I like that. I've never seen this version of the card before. It's really, really cool. But anyway, this is originally printed in Exodus, and we used to do kind of gross stuff with this. 4 mana for an artifact. You can pay 1 and tap it and return a creature to owner's hand unless its controller pays 1. So obviously, if your opponent's down on mana, then you can just bounce their creatures for 1 mana apiece at instant speed. That's good, but what this card actually does is bounce stuff back to your hand at instant speed. If your opponent targets one of your guys with a removal spell, you have protection for it for the rest of the game. If you have a cool enter the battlefield trigger you'd like to repeat, well, it's not quite flickering, but you can still get that ETB trigger over and over. So this can make all your creatures potentially really, really annoying and almost impossible to kill. Erratic Portal is a card that I guess is $2 from Exodus, but I still don't think this sees quite enough play in Commander. I really don't. I'm just going to write Erratic Portal down here. I believe I own a copy of this card, but I'm also working on some videos that are about, like, you know, kind of forgotten commander cards that I think people should play more. And Erratic Portal, I think, could go in that basket. I really think this is a fantastic Magic card that's been sort of washed over by the sands of time. And eventually somebody's going to come along and uncover it and be like, oh, wow, you're really good. And they're going to start playing and they're going to have the time of their life. So I think this is great. I'm actually going to give this card a 7. I know it costs a lot of mana to sort of to get into play in the first place, but once it's in play, it's good in a lot of decks. It really is. So give this one a second look. 7 might seem high, but that's because you haven't played with it. It's really good. Really good card. Gauntlet of Might, ladies and gentlemen. Wow. So this is from the way back. Oddly, though, not printed in alpha. Neither was, I believe, Volcanic Island. I believe that one was left off the sheet in alpha as well. But once we get to beta, we get Gauntlet of Might. 4 mana for a continuous artifact. We just call that an artifact now. Red creatures, all the red creatures, including your opponents, get +1/+1. Whenever a mountain is tapped for mana, its controller adds an additional red. So pretty great. You get like a usually one-sided mana flare that also anthems all of your guys. This was kind of a finisher back in the day in old school goblins decks. Because obviously all your goblins get an extra anthem outside of just your Goblin King, but also this makes all your fireballs deal a lot of damage, you know, and that can be your reach to end the game. If you just have 4 mana in play, well, suddenly your fireballs deal 6 damage, you know, so that's not too bad. They deal 6 to the face at least before you start splitting targets. But if you play a 5th mountain, well, then suddenly, did I say islands? Did I say that a second ago? I feel like I may have. But when you get a 5th mountain in play, then suddenly, you know, how much are you doing? Is it 2, 4, 6, 8, 9? Like your fireballs are doing 9 damage. It's pretty good stuff, Susie. So yeah, Gauntlet of Might is an expensive card for a reason. It was only ever printed in really 2 sets in Collector's Edition. So scarcity is a thing here, and reserve list is a thing. But again, there's a reason the card is that expensive. It's still a really, really good Magic card. I'm going to give Gauntlets of Might a 7.9. Because honestly, it is a lot of mana for this effect. But it is still a pretty playable card, to say the least. But also it helps out your opponents and stuff. I'm not going to go crazy high and give it like an 8.5. I don't think it really deserves that, but more than playable if you can get your hands on a copy, or perhaps you own a printer. Next is Contaminated Drink here. This is from Fallout, and it is 8 cents, but there's also a version that inexplicably costs $5.29. This is an instant that costs X, a blue, and a black. Draw X cards, and then you get X rad counters rounded up. This is an instant speed card. I don't really care that much about the rad counters. I think drawing X at instant speed is pretty decent, but still not incredible. I'm going to give this like a right out of 5. I think this is exactly a 5 to me. You know, better card draw, piece than say Stroke of Genius or other cards like it. And sometimes you will play stuff like that in Commander. Sometimes you will. Next is Confiscation Coup from Kaladesh. This is 5 mana, 3 and 2 blue for a sorcery. Choose an artifact or creature. Then you get 4 energy counters. Then you may pay an amount of energy equal to that permanent's converted mana cost. If you do, gain control of it. So 5 mana to not get mana value, if this is like your only energy thing. But in an energy deck, this will pretty obviously, you'll have like 7 or 8 or more energy to spend in Commander if you're doing it right. So almost basically steal any artifact or creature for 5 mana, which is not the worst rate in the world. It's really not. And in some cases, this will generate energy, depending on what you're stealing. That could be okay too. I generally like thief effects, like a lot. Especially sorcery ones, like things that aren't like I really like control magic. It's one of my favorite magic cards. It really is. But it's an aura. So if they, blow up the aura, they get their creature back. This and stuff like, dominate and a couple of other cards, don't do that. You just steal the creature forever and your opponent can't make an aura fall off to get their guy back. So I think that's kind of a neat thing. I'm just a big fan of thief effects, but I also have to judge them fairly and objectively. So I will give this card a 4. I actually don't think it's incredible, but I personally enjoy it. Swarm Intelligence from Hour of Devastation is up next. 7 mana really, 6 and a blue for an enchantment. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, you may copy that spell. Choose new targets for the copy. Huh. Really good. It costs 7 mana is, I guess, the issue, right? So maybe that's the real problem with this card, but that is a very, very powerful text box. So I'm just going to slap a 5.4 on it and get out of here. I think that there's definitely decks you play the card in for sure. Shatter Skull Giant from Zendikar is 4 mana, 2 and 2 red for a 4/3. That's all it does. That's all it does. I believe that's also exactly a Summit Prowler, if I'm not mistaken. Summit Prowler. Am I getting that wrong? Nope, it's the exact same card, but this one's a Yeti. I have to give this like a 2. It's not that good. So next is Samite Ministration from Only Invasion Ever. This is Ministration, not a different word. 2 mana, 1 and a white for an instant. Prevent all damage that would be dealt by a source of your choice to you this turn. Okay. Whenever damage from a black or red source is prevented this way, you gain life equal to the damage. Okay. All right. So it's not really a fog effect. It's only ever targeting like one guy, It could also target like fireball effects and other huge stuff like that. So I kind of think that's cool. But ultimately, it's probably not that playable, sadly. But it is a really neat card, If it's ever... Like if it does target a fireball or some like giant red spell, then you gain a bunch of life instead. That's cute. So that's cute. I'm gonna give this like a 2.2 though. It's not. I don't think you want to play this card like ever. Boroskilled Mage. A few different guild mages this week. This one with cool Paolo Parente art. So it's 2 Boros hybrids for a 2/2 human wizard. You can pay 1 and a red and a creature gains haste till end of turn, or you can pay 1 and a white and a creature gains first strike till end of turn. That is better than the last guild mage we looked at for commander play. There's probably a lot better, 2-drops in your Boros deck, like your Boros Equipments deck or something, your Boros aggro deck. There's probably better 2-drops, but this can give haste to stuff like every turn. I guess you could do worse than that, all things considered, but still not amazing, but not god awful. I will give this a 3.5. A little mana intensive a lot of the time, but I do kind of like these activated abilities. First Strike is always underrated. Next is Harmonize. What do you give Harmonize? And when was it originally printed? Not as far back as people think. Planar Chaos? That's a good guess, right? Planar Chaos. Bang. 4 mana, 2 and 2 green for a sorcery, draw 3. That's what the card does. That's the entire card. Doesn't see much play, from what I understand, anymore in Commander. It used to be a very highly valued Commander card in the early days of the format, but I just don't think you're going to see too much of this anymore. It's still solid. I will give Harmonize a 5. And I mean it. I mean every word of it. I think Harmonize is worth a 5 every day, man. Again, still a somewhat playable card. You'll slot in sometimes. Generically somewhat powerful. Good for the color that it's in. Yeah. I think in this day and age, there might be better green card draw effects. And even back then, there might have been better ones. It took us a while to remember, like Greater Good, right? Fecundity. But still, I think Harmonize is going to see some play in a Commander deck every now and again. And it's cubable and all that. Just a solid Magic card. That's right out of 5 for me. That is technically it for today, amazingly. I did breeze through a couple of those, but since it's the end of the week, we'll go bonus card again. We haven't had one since Monday. Why not? Body Launderer, old swole Gomez Adams over here. I remember really liking this for Standard, and then it never did anything. So let's revisit it. 4 mana, 2 and 2 black for a 3/3 Ogre Rogue with Death Touch. Whenever another non-token creature you control dies, Body Launderer connives. So that means that you will draw a card and then discard a card. And if you discarded a non-land, it gets a +1/+1 counter. When Body Launderer dies, return another target non-rogue creature card with lesser or equal power from your graveyard to the battlefield. So that means if it gets relatively large, it can return just about anything from your graveyard to the battlefield when it dies. That means you can block with it. It makes attacking kind of difficult, and you can just sack it to a sack outlet once it gets large enough. Return whatever you want. So cool stuff. Conniving is good because this is effectively a card draw engine that also fuels reanimation. That's sweet. I just think the card costs a little. It costs 1 too much mana to see play in Standard. But it still looks good to me. I still look at this and see like a potentially Commander playable card, and maybe I'm just being a fool twice. You know what I mean? Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. You know what I mean? But I still say it's a decent death trigger. The death trigger that cares about other creatures dying is pretty good because it gets you deeper into your library and stuff, and it becomes a decently sized creature. Death Touch means it trades with just about anything, which makes attacking into it really difficult again. So I'm just always going to like this card. I think it's right at, the solid level, almost exactly what I'm looking for in the average strength of a Magic card I'm going to actually add to my Commander deck. So I will give this a 5 as well. I will. Almost an honorary 5, but I think we'll call it just right out of 5 and mean it rather than it being some sort of ceremony. You know what I mean? I think it deserves it. But anyway, that is it for the week, ladies and gentlemen. I will see you again on Monday morning, and I can't wait. Bye till then.